potential to do something where you don't have those demands and you have a work-life balance, because it's not the job, dude.
And I stress that with my guys outside of finding a different profession. I've always stressed that with my guys to have something else, whether it's just a hobby that maybe turns into something more that makes some money. But also just have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Have something, because whether it's malicious or not, or you get fired for some odd reason, or look what happened to, Bogman.
Yeah.
He gets injured on the job, and the city is looking at it from a sheer number standpoint. They're well within their right to fire someone at the year mark. If the doc says, hey, you can't, you're not physically fit, you can't come back to work yet, I'm not comfortable with that.
And he gets nothing
to the city. You're just a number.
Yeah.
Right? So they shit canned him at the 1 year mark. And had he not been proactive and got a business set up and doing his thing and doing really well, he's at the 1 year mark, and he didn't find out that he was fired until they sent me to his doorstep.
Oh,
He's like, hey, good to see you, but what's up, dude? What are you doing? It's like, no one's called you. No one said anything.
Wow.
Nope.
Dude, that's one of those, you're always like, you're one call away, right? Like, I think everybody prepares for, pile of brass and going out that way.
Yeah.
Like the hero's exit, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is that's extremely infrequent. And whether you're injured on the job physically or mentally or whatever that looks like, or you just get that call where it doesn't matter how well trained you are, if it's that call, that's going to end it for you, because there's going to be a, especially social media outcry, you're going to get blasted socially or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Right. I think you're right. It's good to have a backup plan. We're recording, by the way.
Oh, cool.
I just figured it was a good starting point. Usually there's a lot of gems in the beginning when people are just sitting around BSing. And
nonchalant.
Yeah. So I'm like, I hit record and I was like, well, if they say something I need to delete, we can edit it. But you guys did a great job. No department names. Quick intro. Seth Horst, your North Idaho agent, one of my partners, Eric Boardman, also with your North Idaho agent and local law enforcement. And he brought in someone else from local law enforcement. His name is Eric as well. Won't use last name or departments just for that sake, because he's working still. So happy to have you guys here. We intend to talk about gun laws, but we were kind of talking about some other stuff when you peeked in on us there. So I think that backup plan is important, man. I did 14 years. I was getting ready to promote, and then, I had this snagging injury from a work injury. And, I had to pull the plug, and it was a huge shock, right? California, is apparently a lot better than Idaho in that, we can collect, disability retirement, which has been a savior for our family, at least to help me get established up here in real estate. But, I've heard Idaho does not have that.
We have, you can apply for what they call long-term disability.
Okay.
I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know all the percentages. I've heard that if you get approved, you can get up to 60% of what your base wage was at the time of termination. But again, it's an application process. It's not an automatic, hey, you were terminated because of an injury.
Yeah.
You automatically get this. It's an application process
that's crazy.
From the time you apply to the time they even look at it, it's upwards of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Wow.
I will say,
a long time to sit without income.
Right.
So
it is better. You're seeing it move in the right direction. I know that there was, down kind of grassroots movement towards removing the stigma of mental health stuff with law enforcement. And they got a lot moving in that direction too, which I think is beneficial. There's too many dudes out there hanging on with stuff, right?
Yeah.
That not only affects them at work, but it affects them at home too. So hopefully that keeps moving in the right direction, but that's all legislative stuff. You know what I mean?
It takes time to change, and I hate to say it, California's actually got something right, but they're ahead of the curve on that one for sure. Probably to the dismay of the California taxpayers, because, this job breaks a lot of people physically and mentally. And, same with firefighting and paramedics, all that. So I think there's a pretty large chunk that go out on medical stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah.
No doubt. At least for some period of time, for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you break down the differences between what California recognizes, for example, if you're in law enforcement, if you have any sort of back or back injury or knee injury, they'll attribute it to your time in service. I can't remember what they call that. It's like their their Bill of Rights.
Presumptive injury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it says, realistically, if you're in law enforcement for a certain period of time, you're probably going to jack your back up or jack your knees up. That's just a part of the job.
Right. And there's, I mean, it's true, right? Like I had a hernia. That was my stupid injury. And that was also a presumptive injury, even though I had a specific incident that I definitely noticed it. It's a really embarrassing story. I was literally moving a pallet of copy paper from here to there.
Yeah.
And like, you know, lifting in a twisting, jerking motion as you should. And something like
let loose.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was
all the wild stuff, dude.
Yeah. No, yeah. I
physically handled themselves.
I vaguely brush over. Yeah. You know, I got hurt in the line of duty. People are always like, oh, I got shot. And then they always want to ask. I'm like, no, actually, I was literally moving paper. I was pushing paper.
There's a burning bus. There's a bunch of nuns. Like it was serious, bro. Life and death. It was just me.
Yeah. Not the way I wanted to go, but you know, whatever. And here I am in Idaho.
Well, I do want to kick this off. We didn't do this like we normally do, right?
No.
Usually I'll give them a quick intro. So, Eric and I have known each other for about 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
Kind of has, similar back. That seems a lot longer than that. When I sit
yes,
here
it
and look
does.
at your face. There's a lot of time spent in surveillance cars together for long periods of time. But similar career paths. We were both Navy.
Wait, were you in a submarine too? You're way too big for that.
No.
Okay.
No, he's
never on a sub, never on a ship.
Okay.
No, nothing like he did green stuff.
What's that mean? Tell me more. Oh.
Like we'll get there.
Okay,
we'll get there. But no, so he and I known each other for about 10 years. We had Navy background. He kicked off at the first agency about a year before I did.
2012 into 2012.
Yeah, so we just seemed to leapfrog each other. We ended up like we worked interdiction together, which was like I-90s, that corridor for drugs. He and I both worked out on the interstate, which is cool. I think I was negotiations. He was SWAT. And then we went to PD the same time. I think that one he beat me. He was 1, I was 2. We flip-flopped that way too. But
no big deal.
Yeah, then we went to a different agency. SWAT. We worked street crimes task force, the CAT team, stuff like that. It was pretty righteous. We've been there same time, promoted around the same time and all that. But when you talk to somebody about running guns, asking questions about Idaho stuff here or training, dude's a stud.
Okay.
I don't like saying that in front of him because I don't want to inflate that.
Yeah, he's already.
Stop.
Yes. So, but it was funny. Given our similarity, we've always kind of been lumped into this similar category. So we teach together. We teach a lot of like advanced level narcotics investigations. So every one of those, we've got a picture that pops up at the beginning from the movie Twins, which was like an 80s movie with Arnold and Danny DeVito. So I don't know how he feels about being Danny DeVito, but
sure.
The Arnold reference for me was fairly accurate. He's 6'3" and I'm 5'8". It's bullshit as well.
That with or without shoes on.
But when I have my SWAT boots,
his SWAT boots have like a lift on them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and Dave gets so mad at me. He's like, "You can't wear those for pictures." And I was like, "We're
doing team photos, and he's got those on."
I got my platform.
Yeah, that's pretty slick move.
Someone makes you.
Yes, absolutely. No, but Eric's going to be a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that stuff. He's just one of those dudes that's also emasculating because he's done construction for a number of years. So anytime I'm screwing something up around the house, it's, hey, why don't you call Eric and make sure you're doing that right?
So he's one of those guys that's like a little bit more manly than you in every way, and you're like, damn him.
Super
disciplined. I didn't want to say that on the air, but now that it's out
Own
there.
it, bro. Own it.
Just take it. So, really good runner, really good instructor as far as he's got a couple of side hustles where he instructs new firearms folks or even advanced firearms folks.
Cool.
And tips and tricks, and we'll talk about some of that. But it does some construction stuff. Does really good work. So it'll be fun to have.
Do you cook too, bro?
I lived on top ramen and white bread through college. So
okay.
I can get by.
Kind of a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
Jose Ole burritos and Taco Bell sauce.
So we intended to talk about gun laws, just some gun stuff in Idaho, because that's always a hot topic. People have these questions a lot. A lot of our clientele, I would say, are from the law enforcement world. So them maybe not as much, but we do deal with a lot of people that are coming up here and like the culture, but they're kind of new to it. So I thought it'd be good to talk about that. We've got 2 great resources here, or at least one, and so we can dive into that. And Eric was showing me before the. Danny DeVito was showing me that was that case law, or was that just the Idaho statute for the Castle Doctrine that you were just showing me upstairs?
Yeah, for those who want to check it out, it's 19-202 Big A, and it's just the like the self-defense doctrine. It's kind of, what was that, the last 2 years?
Castle Doctrine was 2018, so about 5, almost 6 years, I believe.
Right. So that's talking about your, I can rattle some of that off, but it's
kind of interesting and kind of a little,
vague.
There's two sides to it, right?
Yes.
Like it was a little scary too.
It's nice to actually hear the verbiage in the code too.
Yeah.
When you're talking about truly the stand your ground or castle doctrine. So
I'll rattle off the first one just because I got the voice.
Yeah,
for that, dude.
you do.
I'll use what I bring to the table.
Thank you.
Mesmerizing.
Yeah. Only the first 5 minutes is free. It's $9.99 after that. All right. Defense of self, others, in certain places. No person in this state shall be placed in legal jeopardy of any kind whatsoever for protecting himself or his family by reasonable means necessary, or when coming to the aid of another whom he reasonably believes to be in imminent danger of, or the victim of aggravated assault, robbery, rape, murder, or other heinous crime. So you hear that. There's a big part of me. I'm a big fan of that. Man, this is my own personal opinion. I'm a big fan of having something like that here because I think a lot of people that carry concealed and they're responsible firearms owners in other states, they're worried about getting sued or charged criminally, which happens. I mean, I've heard horror stories about other states where somebody breaks into a house and they're shot and somebody's defending their family and then they're charged criminally.
Right.
Awesome that we have that here. Sometimes in law enforcement, we see that vagueness being utilized for things that I still think are criminal.
Does this preclude for like a civil suit, or can they still sue civilly, like the victim? Say you shoot a dude, you're good on the criminal side. Still got a civil possibility?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that wouldn't protect you from.
Yeah, civil suit is like a completely separate avenue.
Okay.
I've never heard of a successful civil suit when you're deemed when it's been deemed criminally justified.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
I've never seen a success there. Now there may be some one-off cases somewhere that I'm not aware of, but
okay.
I'm not aware of any successful civil suits.
Okay. Now, where can that go wrong? Because when we were reading in that, we were discussing it upstairs, and you kind of use that example of like a bar fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Send it.
I think some of the verbiage in there, and if you want to pull it back up really quick, but it talks about reasonably believes.
Yeah.
And that's where some of that subjectiveness comes into it. Like, all right, you're explaining your standpoint, but would 12 other jurors potentially, would they reasonably believe that they were in danger too, given or being put in that same situation?
Yeah.
And so that's where sometimes it can open up to, all right, would these other people have done the same thing, haven't been put in the same situation?
Well, this speaks to that directly. The second subsection is worth reading. The defense of self or of another does not require a person to wait until he or she ascertains whether the danger is apparent or real. A person confronted with such danger has a clear right to act upon appearances such as would influence the action of a reasonable person.
Yeah.
So it's a reasonable person standard. Sometimes as cops, like that's
right. That's a good thing, right?
Yes. But for us sitting here, we have a different standard on what we perceive to be a real, an imminent threat.
Oh, right. Training and experience, you can argue. Yes.
But when you start applying a reasonable standard to the whole of society, that can get a little subjective.
Well, I play Fortnite, bro, and it's like it's completely reasonable in that world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure.
Which we saw some of that in practical application. You remember the BLM protests and riots in town where we kind of made waves.
The Bureau of Land Management? Why would they protest?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of homes being built up here.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
A lot of timber being cut down.
But when those protests hit, it got kind of wild. And, Coeur d'Alene got a lot of publicity because there were people showing up downtown armed. And I think we saw both sides of the spectrum there. There's some very responsible, you can tell by the way somebody's carrying most of the time,
right?
Whether or not.
Some of it's their kit. Some of it's how comfortable they look in it. Right. And you're like, yeah. Then there's the dude with the Uncle Mike's nylon holster flapping on the small of his back.
Tactical.
With a freaking 1911 hammer back.
Right.
No, wrong.
And that can get scary as cops because that can go real bad.
Yeah.
That can go real bad, real quick.
But so you used an example, and I don't know if you can talk about this, but like a bar fight situation, going back to the Castle Doctrine.
Yeah.
Like a bar fight. Guy picks a fight, goes outside. Can you talk about that? I mean, no names, no.
Yeah, we can just talk.
I don't know if that was that's a hypothetical.
Yeah,
situation.
hypothetical.
Yeah. For today.
Yeah, we could talk about that like a hypothetical. Basically, you go in and you engage it's a confrontation, whatever verbal, hey, let's step outside, which sometimes I think the world needs a little more of that.
Right,
just
dude, I
to
miss
settle,
those days.
Right.
Yeah.
Where you settle it just like that. But the confrontation escalates outside and it's physical, or you're using hand weapons, personal weapons. And then there's distance created, and then somebody produces a firearm and shoots somebody else. That under that, when it's, that vague, that can be a challenge, because
I don't like that.
Right.
But I like the other side of it. So I'm willing to, I guess, take that risk. I don't ever pick fights. I don't even go to bars because I don't want to be around it. Right. But, that scenario bugs me a little bit, because say somebody is the aggressor, you step back up to defend yourself, and now they shoot you.
Yeah.
They're potentially in the good.
Yeah.
Right.
We've had calls that go both ways, where people have been able to protect themselves, which I think is great. There's some you can look them up, but there's some good examples that have happened here locally where somebody's been able to protect themselves. And I do like that part of it. So what's the argument? You want to capture the positive, and there's going to be anomalies.
I guess, like, to live in a free society, right, where, you can open carry, you can do, like, you have to you get a little bit of the Wild West, right? You have to take that side of it too. Like, yeah, you get your freedom, but hey, like, you got to watch your shit too.
Yeah. You got to be cautious,
I guess. Right. That's an interesting one to me.
Right.
I mean, I definitely want the right. Like, if someone comes in my house, I don't want to have to get down my throwdown, serial number filed off, the whole deal. Like, I don't have that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's a screwdriver.
We're still in the hypothetical.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to have to do all that. Right. Like, I perceive a threat. I want to be able to handle it. I don't want to wait.
And that's where there's another code that was modified. And I want to say it was around the same time, 2018, 2019. I could look at the revision, and I'll read the verbiage on it, but it's justifiable homicide by a person. This is just an Idaho code that kind of caveats into that. For those interested, Title 18, Chapter 40, 184009. So the first part of the code kind of outlines, and it's pretty detailed. For sake of time, I won't read the whole thing, but they added a subsection. For the purpose of this subsection, 1B of this section, a person who unlawfully and by force or by stealth enters or attempts to enter a habitation, place of business, employment, or occupied vehicle is presumed to be doing so with the intent to commit a felony. So if somebody is entering your home, it is presumed that they're there to commit a felony.
Or your vehicle.
Or occupied vehicle, place of work. Like, it outlines all of that. Again, there's pluses and minuses, right? Because, and when we talk about the training side of it, like, I want people to be comfortable defending their property, defending their home, their vehicle, their family. But I also want people to be knowledgeable and have the knowledge. Like, what better weapon than knowledge? So there's a plus and a minus to that, right? How many calls do we get of somebody waking up at 5 a.m.? Hey, there's some drunk dude sleeping on my couch.
Right.
Like, kicked in the front door thinking it was his own home, left his keys in his truck or whatever, walked home, booted the door, and he's passed out on the couch. How quickly
I met.
Yeah, actually, funny story. Yeah.
How quickly could that have been? Hey, I just smoked some dude because he jumped through my living room window, or I found him sleeping on my couch and I smoked him.
Yeah, and
right
like me personally, I don't want that on my conscience, right?
Right.
I want to be.
Are you justified in doing that? By the code, you are.
Yeah.
The way the code reads, do you want that on your conscience, or you've got a son or a daughter and you smoke some kid climbing through your window?
Right. He's there to steal some shit. Like, no, that's not a death sentence for me, right?
He snuck out of his house because he wants to make out with his girlfriend.
No, we don't talk about daughters.
I'm okay with shooting that.
Yeah.
That scenario, I'm okay with that.
Again,
I'm strangely comfortable with that.
Yeah, strictly hypotheticals.
Yes. Fair.
But right, I mean, those are real possibilities.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want that on my conscience.
Yeah.
I want the ability to defend my family safely and be protected under law. But that opens it up. I feel like when the state presumes that anyone entering your home is there to commit a felony, that also opens another set of doors.
The state's lining out your defense for you before it even occurs. Like
Right.
we talk about, cops talk about gram factors. Like it's lining out gram factors for this justification of force prior to it, which, man, sometimes you're flirting with a fine line.
State's checking boxes for you before you've encountered it.
Right. And at the end of the day, so much of that's about morality. That's what's cool with having somebody like you teach people, though, especially folks that are relatively new to it and moving here. You're not just getting like the gun runner stuff. Besides getting smoked by me regularly, you can run a gun pretty well. But that part of it's you're adding in those factors and knowledge, because it's not over after you eliminate that threat. Like we know that all too well as cops. After you're engaged in an encounter like that, there's a lot afterwards. And even as a citizen, you have to know that what you were doing was righteous based on protection of yourself and others. It's a different perspective not a lot of people think about. They think it's all about sight picture and trigger control, right?
Right.
There's a whole different side.
So much more that goes into it. And like I said before, knowledge is your best weapon.
Yeah.
Right. It's one thing to know how to operate a gun, be comfortable with operating a gun. It's another thing to have the knowledge and the foresight and to be able to recognize things when you see them. All right, is this the appropriate time? I use the example. There was an incident, and I want to say it was down in California at a Home Depot.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Paying customer leaves. Here's kind of a commotion, sees somebody running through the parking lot, employees following, yelling, hey, he just stole stuff, or like, hey, stop, come back, you got to pay for that. Property, right? He holds him at gunpoint, like in the parking lot over property.
Yeah.
That's insured, right? Home Depot has an insurance claim. They file it as stolen, they get reimbursed. Like, it's property. Was that appropriate use of a firearm? No.
I'm not getting involved in that.
No.
I might trip that dude if he runs by me just because it'd be cool, but
yeah, be a good witness.
Yeah.
Get a plate number, get something, but like to unholster a weapon and hold somebody at gunpoint over what? Property, tools.
Yeah.
Like,
right. And all of us sitting here, we all want people need to be held accountable for that. One of the reasons I like Idaho, and I think Idaho is as safe as it is we still, criminal activity is still criminal activity. But in that instance, what happens when that dude either flees from that or approaches you? Is it righteous for you to use your firearm in that instance? That's the level of knowledge you need. Is this a righteous, justifiable action for me to use my firearm? If not, don't even produce it. Don't even produce it, because you added a gun to that fight.
And you fast forward to, when I was working for the first agency I started with, good working relationship with Walmart up north. And they spoon fed us all sorts of felony arrests because we had a good working relationship with them, but they had a policy that restricted them from doing certain things.
Right.
And so, I get a phone call. Hey, we got this, we got that, whatever. We'd go handle business. Talking with them, some of the stuff that changed is they had an incident at a Walmart down in Florida. Cart push burglary. A guy goes in, clearly was there just to steal stuff, walks in, grabs a cart, goes back to the TVs, puts a flat screen, bunch of, electronic components in this cart, and just walks out. Loss prevention at the time had a policy where you could follow them out into the parking lot. You could go hands-on. You could take reasonable means to stop that from happening. Loss prevention goes out, confronts him. Hey man, you need to stop. You didn't pay for that stuff. Goes to go hands-on. The guy turns around and shoots him, shoots the loss prevention officer, dies. And so they completely revamped their policy. Like, you are not allowed to leave the store. You can't go hands-on. You are just a good witness. Because of that, or the reason they did that is they've got that insurance policy, right? If stuff gets stolen, we don't want it to happen and we're going to report it. We want them to be held accountable. But is your life worth more than a flat screen TV? I'd say so.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Nothing's worth that. So I've seen some good changes there, but then that comes back to laws in Idaho. Like, what's our ability to enforce this? And, prosecution, all of that. The full gamut of things. Like,
do you guys see that going away anytime soon, or is it still a good culture, like in the DA's office and everything in favor of?
Man, it's a
I'll be real about this.
Let's
all right?
be real. All right.
I'm going to try.
We're still hypothetical, right?
Yes, hypothetical. we have some really, really good, and this is going to be interesting. You'll like it. Seth's going to come on the podcast, which he'd be similar to this too. Green over at yeah. So in and out of court a lot. Here's my issue with that. I still think it's good. Idaho still has teeth. Our citizens still want us to pursue criminal activities. That's what our citizens want. That's who they elected, right? So we can still do that. It's part of the reason Idaho's crime rate's down so low, especially Coeur d'Alene down 60, 65%, whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's funky here. In a lot of the ways that we do things in court, we still act like it was 20 years ago where we didn't have the same number of cases. We testify a lot. And there is my experience, there is inconsistency with the judges all across the board. That is a significant factor in the prosecution of each case. There doesn't seem to be standardization in practical, reasonable understanding of case law and how it's applied. So it gets super funky. So a case that just mirrors with the elements in the contact will be ruled differently.
There's a lot of what it feels like is their own interpretation.
Yeah.
Right. Or personal opinion.
Do you think politics plays into that, or is it perhaps their political leaning?
Inevitable.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Possibly.
Yeah. Inevitably. It's that part of it's tough. And that's inconsistency. I truly believe our area is lacking like a judicial watch. I know a lot of big areas.
Oh, you talked to me about this one time.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to have somebody out there that would watch some of the cases and then just at least let the public know. Because most of the time elections, they're going to say, oh, and the incumbent's the best choice because, Idaho's safe. You can leave your car unlocked. I don't recommend it. Be a hard target, but you can leave your car unlocked. It's okay. Your stuff's it's not San Francisco. Yep. So they tend to go with the incumbent when in reality, man, it would be nice for people to know what some of those rulings are.
Yeah.
And there's some great judges. Don't get me twisted. There's some really, really good ones that really care about the community, but there's an inconsistency, which is tough.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's very important to have like a good DA's office and a good judicial system in the town. That makes all the difference, man.
That's prepared for the expansion, right? Like, it's because this area, secret's out.
No, it's our fault. Apparently, we get a lot of nasty comments that myself, I'm bringing all these people up here. They didn't know about it until I said something. So,
right.
Sorry about that. The secret is out.
Yeah.
People are looking. Thankfully, I firmly believe, and I say this a lot, this is like the highest concentration of veterans and former first responders anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I fully believe it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's like, the right kind of people.
Well, and that's what we're talking about, like responsible gun ownership and carrying those laws are obviously different here than they are in other states. But if you have people that are trained and well-versed and they've carried, having a responsible, trained, armed population, I am in support of.
Yeah, fully.
I think people realize that if they're going to go try to carjack somebody here, the chances of you coming across somebody that's armed, they're high.
Yeah.
Pretty high.
Let's not do that here. The risk is too high.
Right. Like any car. I mean, I'm ready for that moment. I'm like, here, you want my wallet too?
Yeah, then they have you're dangerous. You might not even go to a gun. You're like, you know what? We're going to throw hands first. I've been training for this.
I have dabbled in fighting inside of a car. Yes. It's like, it's an element. It's fun.
What would you tell those folks? Eric, tall Eric. There you go.
There
I'm just going to embrace it.
Yeah.
I'm going to embrace it. What would you tell those folks that are moving here from some of those states? Like, quick rundown on what it's like in Idaho, carrying here, what you'd recommend if they're coming here to try to assimilate to how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And how to interact with law enforcement when you're carrying. Cause
great question.
That comes up a lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine you guys, almost everybody has a CCW that you deal with.
Yep.
It's like, what's
we
your
don't even need
perspective?
it anymore.
And
Right.
CCW or not, like, man, that's damn near that's the first question out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Anytime I contact someone, hey man, any guns here? You got a gun on you? Got a weapon on you? And it's not necessarily because I make the assumption that everyone is armed,
right?
That I talk to or deal with or interact with. I automatically, in my mind, they are armed. I use that question because I want to gauge their response, right? I want to see how they're interacting. Do they get nutted up? Do they start getting nervous when I ask them about a gun, knowing that they have one on them or knowing that they don't? And so for me, it's a lot about how the interaction is going to move forward after this.
Right.
Yeah, man, I got a gun on my right hip, or say it's in the glove box, or yeah, just went shooting there in the back seat or whatever. All right, sweet. My assumption was that you're armed already. I just wanted to see how your response was to that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
If somebody starts getting nutted up or like nervous or like looking around the car, no, there's no guns in here. No,
these aren't my pants.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you start
Why did you say
ammo
that?
casings,
that might work west of here, but no.
I always used to say, like, obviously it wasn't as common in California, right? A lot. It was a question I asked, especially on graveyards, but it was always like, yeah, if they were like, hey, yeah, I got my CCW guns in the glove box, it was always like, all right, cool. You don't touch yours, I won't touch mine, right? Like,
Yep.
Easy.
Yeah.
And same thing. It was usually pretty obvious.
It's
the
a
ones
good-
that
You
should
can
have it
gauge
and
their
should
response,
not. Yes.
right? Like, if somebody is legal to have one and they know they've got one, like they shouldn't be nervous around the cops just because you're in uniform. Like, and so gauging that response puts them at ease. And in my mind, it helps put me at ease too. Like, all right, yeah, this dude, law-abiding citizen, has a gun like everyone else in Idaho.
Yeah.
But is open about it.
Right.
He's honest about it. Like,
And remember,
Okay.
people, like, if you're going to show the cop, remember to reach in a very quick motion to grab it and show it, right? Yeah.
Right.
Is that the right way
You
to
remember
do it?
that fighting in
Yeah,
the car thing
yeah,
we just talked
yeah.
about? That's a good way for no, but truly, and you're 100% right, because people do get a little awkward and you get like different reactions. It's totally random, right? Depending on what it is.
Yeah.
For me, what I'll tell folks when they ask me is, man, if I approach the car and your hands are on the steering wheel, just say, hey, man, I just want you to know I got a gun on my right hip. I said, okay, cool, dude. It's North Idaho. Everybody does. I got one on mine too. Not a big deal. Like it's not a big deal. Like lawful possession, I might ask a few questions about it, right? Especially if I start seeing other things in the car that are concerning to me, like rolled up tinfoil or some other stuff that has a nexus of violent
People
crime and
can't-
drugs. I've tested.
People can't bake potatoes
Nice.
in cars
Yeah,
anymore.
Come on.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. Here I am being judgmental, but no, if there's some other factors and it's starting to make like hink me up a little bit, then yeah, I'll take some exception. But just because you have a firearm in a car doesn't mean we're going to yard you out of the car and do anything like that. And remember, if it is an officer and there's multiple occupants, they're like, hey, would you just mind stepping in? It doesn't mean you're in a bunch of trouble or we're judging that. It's just distancing you from that for your safety and for ours.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. We deal with it all the time.
Castle Doctrine. Does that come into play at all with cops? That'd be a tough one.
No, I mean,
Better not.
you're talking about Castle Rock and stand your ground at your house?
Yeah, or in your car.
Well, yeah, similar to
Some dumbass try to do that yet.
So
And claim that.
where that kind of comes into play, and that's where we have to be careful as law enforcement, is announcing who we are and why we're there, right? You got a nighttime search warrant or nighttime, like and we don't really use them anymore, but no knock warrants.
Yep.
Yeah. And that has come, we're there for a reason.
Yeah.
We're not going away. Calling out the specific address, making sure that, our perimeter units can hear our announcements so that we can articulate all of that.
Is there ever a scenario anymore where a SWAT team would do a no-knock warrant and just first thing you hear is a flashbang?
I'll say no.
Yeah.
We've been approved no knock warrants. We don't execute them.
Yeah. I feel like you're right. It's going to force a shooting.
yes.
Because
Like every time.
like typically no knock warrants is preservation of evidence, right? You don't want to give them the chance to dump dope down a toilet or destroy anything. Is my safety worth more than evidence?
Yeah.
No, and that's just it. And that is a consideration with Idaho. Most people are armed, right? Like that is just routine. If I'm going into somebody's house, you expect them to arm themselves. That's our society here. That's our culture in North Idaho. And that's just that part of it's not worth it. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure it's any more effective. We use a lot of different tactics where if that's the case and we're worried about evidence destruction or something, there's other tactics we can use that wouldn't require guys going no knock into an unknown. That even the military, when we train like building clearing, man, there's no more the what do you call that immediate entrance, dynamic entry.
Oh, yeah.
That we're moving away from that.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Surrounding call out stuff.
Yeah. Moving away from that, those tactics.
And quite honestly, going back to the no knock thing, if the way we kind of phrase it, like if a detective or someone brings a case to SWAT and says, hey, like we got a search warrant for this house, but we need no knock because they might destroy evidence inside or whatever. If the rigidity or the case is hinging on the evidence that we might find in that house that you think is in that house, and so you're putting the team kind of in jeopardy or like reducing our safety in a call out like that, by having us perform a no-knock. If your case hinges on the evidence that we might find in the house because we're doing a no-knock warrant, you need to build a better case.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get more.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. Priorities of life, right? Priorities of
Can't
life.
say that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Safety priorities. Yes.
bro.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh, is priorities of life a racist comment now?
It's it's now not PC. So now it's called the safety priorities.
Oh.
When I explain them, you'll get it. It goes hostages are number 1, innocents number 2, cops are number 3, suspects number 4. So saying priorities of life, they didn't like that because you're prioritizing.
Where did dogs fall into that?
Well, probably depends on the owner.
Between cops and suspects.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where I'd feel about
Unless
that.
it's my Dachshunds, you could put them, they're down there a little more than that.
Dachshunds are rodents.
Oh,
They're not even dogs yet.
They chewed up my floor, dudes. They're real low right now.
Wait, so I think I misinterpreted your dogs, and I was thinking of the different dog. You're talking about like a wiener dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 2 of them.
When you first told me, I
not
was
a Doberman.
picturing no, I wasn't
Not
even
a
picturing. I was
Doberman.
picturing the black and white. What are they? Dalmatians. Why did I? Think
Oh, yeah.
Dalmatians?
Negative, bro. 2, they're
Okay, and I was like, wow, you're copying firefighter dogs, man.
2.
But you have wiener dogs.
Yes. Wiener
Okay.
dogs.
Yeah, you
2
should have said that the first time. Like that's more.
No, I just kind of let you
Dachshund
let us
sounds,
pass
I
over.
it
sounds
sounds
classier.
cooler. Yeah.
Classier.
They're trained.
That's me. I'm
Yeah.
classy. Classy.
Very.
That's right. That's why I'm drinking out of the cup that says she believed she could, so she did.
You're
2024.
welcome.
That's all right. Thank you for that.
It's my wife's special cup. It's a good one. Yeah.
Good. Thanks. So, what would you say for those that are coming down here, like a rundown on how our laws differ from, say, I don't even want to say California because that's like 180 out as far
It's
as
a different country.
Yes.
We gotta use it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's just too bad because I know I've said this a couple times. Geographically, California is freaking awesome.
They have it all.
God.
They have it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to
It's beautiful.
geographical location and potential for what that state could be,
Yes.
they have everything.
Right.
Yes. At one point in time, I think it was 20 years ago, they had in top 5, 5th largest GDP in the world.
Yeah. That's true.
By
Yeah.
itself because you've got, anyways. But so somebody coming from a different state, what kind of stuff would you educate them on as far as like concealed carry, open carry, what we got here in Idaho?
When it comes to the law, Idaho has full reciprocity. You have a CCW from any other state, we honor that. We have open carry law. As long as you're legal to own a firearm, you can conceal it and carry it, and you can open carry it. There's no special permit that you need for either one. We still offer CCW classes and enhanced CCW classes for those that want to travel, go other states, whatnot. That enhanced CCW I think is good in 39 states now, 38, 39 states.
Is Washington one of those?
Correct.
Yeah.
For the enhanced.
Okay.
Just getting the Idaho concealed carry, Washington doesn't honor that one. You get the Idaho enhanced, which is, and I say all of this, and I have my own issues with the CCW process or the class that is required. 4 hours, it's typically an 8-hour class. So 4 hours of classroom, you learn the Idaho laws, the legal side of it, and then 4 hours of punching holes in a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you guys can attest to this. How many people have you met that, oh yeah, I have my CCW. Oh, sweet. Do you carry? Well, no, I'm not comfortable with the gun yet.
Yeah. Right.
So your CCW class, this class it is required to take that allows you to carry in 38 of our states doesn't get you to the point where you're comfortable even carrying your gun.
Right. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. I agree.
That's an issue.
There's more strict training guidelines for a BLS certificate or doing CPR than there are to carry a fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a tough one to solve, right? Like, what do you do? Like a week-long class? It takes, I know some cops that 10 years on the job and they still suck carrying a gun.
Oh,
So,
yeah. No, you run into it all the time.
We see it all the time.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, your chosen profession is being being armed all the time, right?
Right.
And so you would think that there's a little more emphasis, like personal emphasis on taking that training seriously.
Yeah.
There's not. I met cops that are, 10, 15, 20 years on the job that the only time they touch their gun is when we require them to qual or train at the department. There's no outside of work, shooting, training.
that used to drive me nuts.
It drives me crazy. Like, this is your chosen profession.
Right.
For me, it was like jujitsu. And for a while, a friend of mine and I were doing a free combatives class, like just for cops. Like, hey, come down on the weekend, like come train. And like nobody from my department would ever come to that. I'm like, now they'll go play golf and do all that. And that's fun. That's great. But like, this is your profession. And like, there's a very high probability you're going to have to go hands on.
You're going to,
and they don't want to do it.
Right.
Drove me crazy. Yeah. Same thing with guns. Of course, we'd have the 29 years on the job guy, and he'd show up to the range and he'd be like, just give me my rounds. And like, they don't want to shoot.
Right.
Yeah. Knock the qual out and be done.
Yep.
And that's it. And it's unfortunate, but we had those at our department. We have them in my prior agency. Like, it's unfortunate, but how do you promote?
Now, mind you, at
the
RPD,
difference?
don't let the range guy undersell what they get to do. All right, we're at the range all the time, out there messing around.
I shot a lot of rounds when I was a range guy, man. It was like I'd be out there, at least 5 times a month. Like,
but it's awesome. It's stress inoculation. It's rapid decision making. It's moving and shooting. There's not the static stuff.
That's good stuff.
And even there's a lot of folks out there. I'm gonna call it out. I'm probably gonna be super unpopular for it because I'm still in the military now. A lot of people in the military think they can shoot just because they're in the military. Stop it. Like you have to go train. Like, and there's some, no question, that actually went out legitimately and did some of the moving and shooting, but shooting paper targets once every 2 years as a qual, that doesn't train you how to carry it.
So I guess the main point is here, even the guys and gals that do it all the time and carry a gun for a living, they need to train. So if you're coming up here, and you want to carry a gun, you got to put the work in. You got to seek out training. And do it. And honestly, like a lot of them that have come up here that I know that, I just talked to one the other night. Actually, they found this on YouTube, so shout out to them. That was cool. Gabe and Kim, they hit me up and they're like, "Oh, we've been doing these classes. They were over at Fernan, CCW, and then they did some other classes, and it's like, so like they have a strong interest in bettering themselves in that world, and like I like that. Yeah. I'd say I'm seeing more of that here than I have seen in anywhere else I've lived. It's just civilians seeking out that training, so that's cool.
It's awesome, and he won't do it, so I'll do it for him. But him and a couple other gun runners, like. Legitimately, some of their, when we go through and test, like world-class shooters, and they run 2.7 tactical, which they teach and train on that, and also talk about the laws, but it's just putting a lot of rounds down range and changing your mechanics and stuff like that to make you faster, more effective, and confident. Confidence with your firearm is huge. And those guys, I know they've got them on social media, but they run their own classes. It's cool to see how much interest that gets because people legitimately, I think, want to be confident in their firearm.
Where's the name 2.7 come from?
So Sergeant Moore, Greg Moore was.
Oh yeah, of course. I should have recognized that.
2015. So good friend, good sergeant, good mentor.
Good dude.
And so when we formed this company, I think probably the biggest struggle in all of that is like, what do we name it?
Yeah.
What do we name it? Like we know we have the skill set. Like we know we have what we need as far as the business goes. What do we name it?
Yeah.
All three of us, our third partner, Sean Bogman, wasn't up here, didn't know Greg, but being in law enforcement, being at the department, it still meant something to him.
Yeah.
So the three of us, it was a no-brainer when we started trying to devise a name around what Greg meant to all of us.
Yeah, I like that.
That was an easy one. So yeah, the whole company is kind of a tribute to him, his family. You
guys do your shooting over at Fernan, or where do you?
Yeah. So historically, cause we don't have our own like in-house facility. That's future goals, obviously, but money and finding acreage now.
Yep. Yeah. You know any good realtors?
Seen it. I don't know. I don't know a single one. Well, I know one. Sorry. Sorry, babe.
Yeah.
My wife.
Yeah. Oh. There we go. See, that's because you're
I
a good
know
judge.
One single one.
Yes. You're a good judge of character.
All right. That's fair.
But no, so we've got a great partnership, great relationship with the guys out at Fernan. We have to be careful though, because to teach a full-on CCW class, we don't do that at Fernan out of respect for them. Because they teach one there.
Own. Okay.
I'm working on the curriculum right now, and I'm hoping by this spring we'll have it up and running. And it's to combat that issue with, I've taken my CCW, but I'm still not comfortable carrying.
Yeah.
So, and if you guys have input on the name, in my brain, I'm just going to name it Training to Conceal.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not going to be these large group classes, 15, 20, 30 people at a time. I want it to be more one-on-one. So there's 3 of us instructors. We'll probably take maybe 5 to 6. And there's going to be kind of a get to know you section before you come out to the class. What do you do for work? What do you do for recreation? Do you have kids? Like, where do you carry your gun?
Yep.
Is it in the glove box of your car? Are you on the road a lot for work? Are you a traveling salesman and you throw your gun in your car? Do you carry it on your person? Do you carry it in a purse? Are you sitting in an office all day and want to have a weapon with you? Once we know kind of what your daily routine is, we're going to cater the training to that. I can't count the number of people I've talked to that carry in a purse that have never shot from a purse. Yeah, have Meg give you one of her old throwaway purses. You can train on shooting from a purse.
I think that's a good idea.
Match my
But
cup.
then on top of that, it's like, all right, what type of gun do you carry?
Yeah.
Do you carry a semi-automatic in your purse? And have you ever shot and experienced a malfunction because the slide's moving around and you got chapstick and lipstick and pencils and all sorts of stuff flying around in your purse?
Well, even the manner in which you're carrying it, I hate to bring in this, but that Walmart call was one of the worst things.
Oh, dude, that was terrible.
Worst things I've
Terrible.
ever seen. It was,
Kid.
yeah. Well,
Mom had a gun in her purse and
Oh.
kid was sitting in the shopping cart and fiddling around with and killed mom.
Oh my gosh.
100% unintended. Like there was no intention behind it. He was just fiddling around with stuff in the purse and
accident.
Oh, dude, that's rough.
Understanding that part of it, because you all think about, just like we were talking about law enforcement at the beginning of this podcast, right? Like you all think about that moment when you're training, you have your firearm is for that, to defend yourself. But there's a whole nother scope of responsibility in carrying. And I think that's where you talk about coming here, and a lot of folks are coming from states where you can't conceal carry, or you have to get an advanced license, or whatever that looks like. Cool, come here and conceal carry, but be responsible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go get into fights, man, you're introducing a gun to every single fight, right? Like, be a responsible gun carrier.
Yeah.
It's a force multiplier when we have an armed population that's trained and smart. That I like it as a cop, but there's the other side of that too.
And that's the angle that we're trying to take too. It's like, no offense, but I don't care whether you have a permit or not. Like Idaho doesn't care either. I want you guys to have the knowledge.
Yeah.
I want you to be comfortable. I want you to have the knowledge, the know-how, because like he said, it's a force multiplier. And when we have an armed population that is not just armed, I carry, but knowledgeable and comfortable owning and possessing and carrying a firearm, that's where the advantage is.
Yep, absolutely. That's can you provide some insight on the concealed carry stuff in Idaho, what that looks like? Because you mentioned that, how the Idaho doesn't care.
Yeah, so Idaho as a state doesn't care, and you don't have to be a resident in Idaho. If you are currently in Idaho and you are of legal age to own and you're not a felon, all the precursors, you are illegal to own a firearm.
Yeah.
You can conceal it, carry it, you can open carry it. We don't care. There's restrictions, and you can read through the code. There's restrictions on where you can and can't carry just based on federal law, schools, daycares.
While you're intoxicated.
Correct.
Is that like over the legal limit, or is there like a gray area there?
Over the legal limit.
Or is it just like, impaired?
No, I think you got to be over the legal limit.
Yeah, I believe it's over. I don't want to.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to misquote something.
That's a fine one there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy on the podcast said it was totally cool. I was
I heard this on YouTube.
Yes. Well, it's on the internet. They can't lie on the internet.
Right.
It's on the internet. It's totally true.
I'm pretty careful with that. I mean, I never get drunk, so there's that. But I am always carrying, but I don't go to bars. I don't get drunk.
I can't say that. I'll say if I get drunk, I drink Pedialyte because I'm 40 and
that's cool.
Say it saves me the next day.
How many White Claws does it take you to get drunk anymore?
Okay, based on my training and experience, depends on the flavor. Mango, who's to say?
They go down so easy.
Yeah,
White girl wasted.
They go down easy.
There you go. How about? And we should just out with it. Any limitations on mag size or anything like that?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, you want to carry a
banana clip,
Glock 47 with a 60-round drum. Try and conceal that.
Send it.
That'd be a ridiculous looking thing. I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
it's easier for some of us to conceal that.
Yeah.
Appendix carry that bad boy.
Yeah. It's all me.
Got there, man.
There it is.
No, so no limitations as long as the gun is legal. You're not carrying any modified. Obviously, the post 86 guns can't carry full auto. Like normal federal restrictions. If it's a gun you want to conceal or a gun you want to open carry, and it's a legal firearm and you're legal to own it, do it. Send it.
What about tax stamps for short barrel rifles and suppressors?
Yeah.
Can you carry a short barrel rifle if you have your tax stamp?
Yeah.
You just have to have like paperwork.
Technically you have to have the tax stamp with you.
That's lame.
I take a picture on my phone.
Okay.
Of all my NFA items. So SBRs, suppressors, anything that qualifies for an NFA item. I just take a picture on my phone. So I've always got that photo with me.
Gotcha.
It's recommended that you have a hard copy somewhere. So like if I'm going out to the range, I'm spoiled because I have my own gun range at my house.
Well,
but
yeah, that's good.
if I'm going to Fernan or going somewhere that is out away from my house, I've got a file with all my NFA, like copies of all my NFA tax stamp.
So it's like a big
Stuff.
file. I mean, you're making it sound like it's a pretty big file.
I mean,
It's ridiculous.
It's average.
Ridiculous.
I'd say it's
2
average.
inches big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not
Average size.
boasting, but it's average.
I don't have any of that. I'm
Yes.
jealous now.
Average for an Idahoan, I
He's
guess.
just step my game up, man.
He's got a girthy file
Yeah.
of all of his tax stamped firearms. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
How about, and I'm not even that familiar. How about suppressor stuff? Idaho suppressor stuff.
Yeah.
Technically, and I don't want to get into the weeds in this, but technically the way the code is written, you can own a suppressor that was made in Idaho without a tax stamp. Now, where we get into the weeds, and I said I didn't want to get there, but
We're
you
getting
have
there.
to read
We're
some
getting
of-
there. A little
read
bit.
some of the fine print is if the feds wanted to get nitpicky on it, the metal that it is manufactured from has to be mined in Idaho. Like every piece
Wow.
cannot come from any other state but Idaho.
Does the ATF like recognize it? If you can prove all of that, they're good with it and they're not going to mess with you? Or is there still a little bit of gray
What
area?
am I
with
allowed
you?
to say about the ATF?
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ATF won't enforce a spoon-fed felony to them,
Okay.
but they would go after something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
So, well, I always
Just-
figured like,
Sorry, my opinion.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Based on my 12
Experience.
years doing this,
Yeah.
you can spoon feed them a badass federal case and they won't touch it. They'll go after someone like that that's out of Fernan shooting a suppressor without a serial number on it.
But somebody's got to dime them out, right? Like, who's going to do that?
Right.
Not that I'd take that. I wouldn't want to take that risk. I
Yeah.
guess I'd keep that one at home. But
And honestly, with technology being what it is and the advancements you throw a rock in any direction and there's a suppressor company
Yep.
building them. The process is not hard. Yes, there's a waiting period, but it's not a hard process.
how long is that right now? Do you know roughly?
My first suppressor was a 13-month wait.
Whoa.
My
X number.
Last,
Don't.
my last one.
don't show this to my wife.
I was going to say.
My second 2 were 7-month waits, and
Yeah.
I've got 5 sitting in ATF jail right now that I certified on them back in October. And
Okay.
so we'll see.
No, that's a bit of a wait.
I'm hoping June, July, maybe of this year.
Okay.
They've gone faster now. It's gone electronic, though. It's
Yeah, I've seen the
electronic
kiosk.
Yeah,
files.
so they did. Yeah, the
It's moving.
e-forms. There was that sped it up for the first, like when they revamped that system and everything kind of went digital. You go to the kiosk and do your fingerprints and take a picture and all of that. That sped it up initially, and then it was flooded. Right now, everyone's like, "Oh, there's only a 5-month wait, 6-month wait for a suppressor. I'm going to go buy one."
So $200 for the tax stamp to do it.
Yeah.
How much is a suppressor on average itself?
Some of that depends on what it's for, right? If you're looking for just a good all-around suppressor that you can put on multiple calibers, you can get into a good quality suppressor, $600, $700, $800.
Okay.
You want a more specific long-range hunting, long-range precision rifle where you need a suppressor that's designed for accuracy. That's not going to allow some of the other things to happen that you might sacrifice some of that accuracy for. That doesn't matter in like an SBR or a close quarters gun or a pistol that, realistically you're shooting 25, 30 yards.
Yep.
You need a suppressor for a long range rifle. You're going to be in the $1,200 to $1,300 range, $1,500.
Okay.
Plus your $200 tax stamp. But again, it all depends on the purpose.
Okay.
What it's for.
So you buy it. Say you buy it at East County Guns.
Mm-hmm.
It sits there until it clears.
Correct.
Okay. So they just hang on to it. They got
a so you go in
warehouse full of them waiting.
Yeah. You purchase it. You'll get an email from, if you go through the silencer shop kiosk, you'll get an email from them saying, hey, you're ready to certify. You go through a questionnaire, different things, and then you what they call certify, and that's when your waiting period starts.
Okay.
And there's no like countdown timer that tells you, all right, June 17th of 2024.
Just shows up someday.
Right.
Does it have to be for a specific suppressor, excuse me, like the tax stamp? Is it for one specific serial numbered item?
Yeah. So you can go on, like I've gone on and bought, you can buy tax stamps in advance.
Okay.
If you have a silencer shop account, you go onto the website, you can buy 30 tax stamps. Then when you buy a suppressor, they take one of those tax stamps and assign that tax stamp to that serial number on that suppressor.
Okay.
And that tax stamp is for that one specific NFA item.
So if I went in right now and did my $200 tax stamp, would that start the counting period? Or do I have to assign it to a suppressor to start the period?
Once you purchase the suppressor and it's assigned that serial number, that's when it starts.
That would have been kind of cool. I go,
I know.
Buy 10 of these and then I get it right over the counter.
Next 10 years, I'm good.
Or you could go to Sweden and it's required to have a suppressor to hunt. You go in and buy it same day.
So is that pretty common for hunting out here? People throw them on there?
It's getting more popular.
Yeah. It seems like a great idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Save your having to put earplugs in or something.
I like hunting suppressed. It adds a little bit of length to the gun. It adds some weight, but now I don't have to like walk around with earmuffs on or earplugs or like, hey, I've got an opportunity, but wait just a second. Let me put my earplugs in so I don't blow out my eardrums.
Now,
but on your property, you're walking around in your skivvies anyways, getting ready to plug whatever game
typically
animal's walking off.
Shoot my elk in my basketball shorts from my back porch. So.
Oh, that's great. That's good living.
You don't
right
work.
there.
You still
very Idaho.
Yeah, they ain't basketball.
Very
shorts.
Idaho.
That's right. Banana hammock.
Trying to keep it PG here.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, like how much does it reduce the sound of a firearm?
So typically, and I'm not going to talk decibel ratings. I don't all of that, but typically a good quality suppressor meant for the caliber that you're shooting will bring it below hearing safe standards.
So it's not entirely quiet, but it's where you don't need your
it's not Hollywood. You still hear the crack because what you have, unless you're shooting subsonic rounds, you still have a supersonic bullet breaking the sound barrier as it leaves the barrel. So you're still going to hear that crack. But it brings the level down to where it's safe for you to be around it without hearing protection on. Mm-hmm. I still wear hearing protection when I shoot suppressed. But it typically a suppressor, you shoot a 30 cal suppressor on a 5.56, it's going to be slightly louder than shooting a dedicated 5.56 suppressor on a 5.56.
Okay.
But not what your ears could recognize, right?
Yeah.
Typically 1 or 2 decibel difference. And that's why I talk about like a good general purpose suppressor. Like my first suppressor was a 30 cal can because I've got 300 blackout, I've got 5.56, and I can put one style muzzle brake on multiple different rifles and just use that suppressor on whatever rifle I wanted to shoot that day.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So, and that's another option for those, those that are wanting to get into the NFA stuff is find a good quality 30 caliber can. You can shoot hunting rifles out of it. You can shoot AR-10. You can shoot 30 cal, like 300 blackout.
30-30, right?
30-30, yeah. All the way down to 5.56, 223. Even throw it on 22s. I wouldn't recommend that because 22 rimfire stuff is super dirty.
Oh.
And then like cleaning your can is.
Yeah, how do you do that?
You don't have the gas pressure.
Soak it or something?
Yeah, you can. It depends on the suppressor, but most of them now are user serviceable. Some of the ones that are 3D printed, they're all just like one piece. I drop it in a sonic cleaner. Or you can, like old school method, military, drop it in CLP for a day and then thread it on a 5.56, something with high pressure. and blast it out, and that cleans it.
Remember, kids, clean your can after dirty ammo.
Right. Always clean your can.
Always. So, but I will say that you brought out that Ruger 22, and he was running subsonic.
Like a 1022 or a pistol.
So cool.
No. So I represent a company called Gray Birch Precision.
Okay.
So they make super high end, like very accurate 1022s.
Oh God, I want one now. Damn it.
I know a guy.
You know a guy?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah.
So suppressed subsonic ammo.
Yeah. So
super quiet.
Yeah, literally the impact, like we were just shooting targets and then a dirt bank behind it, and the bullet hitting the dirt bank is louder than the gun.
That might be the most fun thing ever.
It was awesome.
Dude, and what's even funner is shooting it out of a bolt action. So I've got a little CZ 457.
Yeah.
So you don't have even the sound of the bolt coming back. It's just it's dead quiet.
Dude.
So much fun.
Would that kill a coyote if you're close enough?
Yeah. Inside 100 subsonic rounds, you'd probably want to be inside 50 yards.
Okay.
They're funky because you can kind of see them. You know what I mean?
It's like
you can just. I mean, they're still moving, but you can kind of see them.
Yeah.
Because they're only out of a 16-inch barrel. They're only coming out at about 700 feet per second.
Okay.
You can get subsonic rounds that are shooting about 1,000. But yeah, shot placement, you could kill a coyote at 100 yards.
Just thinking ahead here, I got some property coming up, and I got little dogs, and
oh yeah.
I mean, I could
dachshunds.
I'll bring the attack dachshunds over, dude.
Yeah. They'll take care of the coyote.
Actually, if you have a whole bunch of coyotes, I will bring them over. Yeah. I'm just kidding, babe. I love the dachshunds. They're great.
They'll spend the night at my house on the back porch.
It's gonna look like Jurassic Park where they stick the goat out there. The dachshunds are just gonna be out there. Just go and bark, yip it up. Have
be as loud as you want.
Yeah, invite the whole party.
Oh, but I guess we better cut this, fellas. We're at 12:12.
Goes quick, man.
It goes really quick, but we can do it again. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
You know where to find me. Actually, we're moving the podcast studio here within the month to a legit space that we're renting.
Secret.
Not my basement
this
anymore.
Seems pretty legit.
It's pretty legit, but it's my basement. So, it's kind of weird having the sheriff down here and people like that.
It all started when I started coming over here. He's like, all right, suspect individuals coming into my basement.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's hard to talk people down here sometimes because they're like, really? Like, you want me to go down there with you? I'm like, no, it's fine.
My mom will cook us lunch while we're here talking.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
There's an ice tub full of ice. Your kidney looks great. It's all clean ice. It'll be fantastic.
That was really good info, man. Appreciate it. Definitely want to do it again sometime. Yeah. So, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Tall Eric.
Thank you, Tall Eric.
What was that movie again?
Twins.
Exactly.
I know,
right.
for the younger crowd. Look at it.
Do we have time?
I'm sure.
The DeVito story.
Tell the DeVito story.
Geez, okay. There I was, super professional, minding my business. He and I were working street crimes task force together. We may have cultivated a, I'd say an informant, something like that, right? Working some street crime stuff is how that worked.
Use that term loosely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did provide information.
Yes, he did. He was a concerned citizen providing information for the betterment of the city, really.
Right.
Standing citizen. So it's when I'm over talking to him and we're facilitating how we're going to work together, right? To pursue further criminal endeavors. And out of nowhere.
No. It wasn't out of nowhere. You were exchanging phone numbers. And he's like, well, what do I call you? What do I put in my phone? What do I call? I don't want to put like officer so-and-so in my phone. I happened to overhear it. I said, hey, call him DeVito.
Yes.
And
boom,
that stuck.
Flash forward, we had an incident that turned into a massive. It was a total shite show. Everything went sideways.
Frogger on the freeway.
Yes, I was quarterbacking it, and there was like multiple things going on all at once because that's the only thing I know is just shit show. So, anyways, he ends up going to confront this individual. He's like, no. I'm on the phone with DeVito. And he's rolling. So now we have to disclose and go testify that DeVito is my particular name utilized for the purposes of this report. So now I'm judicially recognized as DeVito. It's really great. It's really.
Point of pride for my career.
Kind of famous. Yeah. That's funny.
One of my prouder moments.
Yep.
12 years of doing this.
In court, that was kind of cool. And then, testifying about my balls, that was also a big
That's
Different
That's a story for another
Yeah,
day. I look
story
forward
for
to
another
that
day.
one.
We don't have time for that
Yeah.
one today.
Wow.
Judicially recognized.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Oh man, that's a good teaser.
I
by
apologize.
The way,
yeah.
for next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Stick
Stay
around. Eric will
tuned.
tell you the story about his testifying about his balls.
Yeah. So that'll be the lowest views that we'll ever get on the podcast.
No, it'll be the highest.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, fellas. That was a good time as always. Appreciate it. And we will catch you later.